Rock blood raiding parties are cutting loose in the fields around Usingen. I don't need to tell you what that means for the poor bastards in their path. You're heading to Morgensloft, biggest farm in the area. If there are survivors, and I hope there are, you'll find them held captive there. Do what you can. Every prisoner freed is one less slave used by the enemy, and repay the dead in kind, if you follow.
Alright guys, welcome to Vermintide 2. I'm Indy Pride from milkandcookiesTW, and today we'll be running through the third and newest map available in the beta, Against the Grain. Playing as Kerillian the Wood Elf Waystalker now, no longer a Way Watcher. She has ascended and is moving higher up the Azrai totem pole, as it were. Now the Waystalker is arguably her best class in the game right now. She regenerates health slowly over time, has double the ammo capacity of her Handmaiden and Shade classes, no range damage fall off whatsoever, and ranged weapon zoom. So designed to be a killer from long range on paper, but in practice she can actually be just as deadly, if not more so, in close quarters combat. Her ultimate ability, or career skills as it were, is called True Shot Volley, which fires 3 arrows that home in on targets that you can try to lock onto, and it can be a great way to quickly get a special enemy off an ally, or clear a couple of tough enemies out of a horde to make the fight a teeny bit easier. But right here in these open fields, dealing with some plague monks, a couple of clan rats, some basically ambient trash, and some storm vermin, and you definitely don't want to be sticking around here for too long. Visibility is really bad, and that's a pretty terrifying prospect when specials like the Packmaster and the Rattlin Gun start descending on your head like they are wont to do in Vermintide. And one thing that definitely characterizes this game very heavily is that all these new enemies synergize incredibly scarily and in a really cool manner that makes for some pretty crazy moments and difficulty spikes that can get your team wiped in a couple of seconds out of nowhere. So it's really fun, but you've got to keep moving in that first part for sure, because if you don't see the enemies or where they're coming from, a bunch of special spawning on you is going to be pretty bad for you and your team, and a couple of grabbers can make your day miserable right off the bat. So let's talk about gear for a second, what I'm rocking with in this game. We've got an Azrai Spear with an additional 6% crit chance. You'll be seeing this weapon a lot because it's really dang good. Covers a ton of range, can have great defensive and offensive potential, seems to have a nice headshot multiplier, and can carve through hordes like nobody's business. The thing I love most about it is that you can weave in and out of combat really nicely. You'll see throughout this gameplay, the charged attack allows you to cover a massive amount of ground and do damage to quite a few enemies when you've got it wound up, and the light attacks are super fast and good for stun locking and finding the vital points of those horrifying monsters we're fighting. That dude got messed up pretty hardcore, pretty nasty what these Chaos Marauders and Chaos Warriors will do to their enemies, and Skaven are no exception. They're gonna probably be eating a few of their victims, but we're gonna grab some health here and keep moving. Now, cool thing about Waystalker, because you passively regenerate health over time, you don't have to worry so much about picking up health. I am gonna do it here just because I feel like I have a lot of experience with the game, and I can dish that out and heal my allies whenever I need to, and we'll get a good understanding of when to do that. When someone goes down, is on white health, that's probably a good time to use that med kit and heal them up. Now I believe Kruber here, yeah, Kruber has just picked up the first home. You can jump up on top of that roof to the right and grab that first home up there, and so we'll be moving in and along this road, looking to do some damage to our Skaven and Chaos enemies. So for my secondary weapon, I'm rocking with a Hagbane, very versatile swift bow with the ability to burn through hordes with powerful poison clouds, and still a decent choice at melting through bosses, although it does seem like the stacking damage over time is a little less ridiculous on the Hagbane compared to Vermintide 1. It's still a relatively low level bow at the moment though, so that definitely might change as we drop some new weapons. That was the True Flight ability. Want to kind of snipe down those Storm Vermin with shields, or some of the Clan Rats with shields in the middle of that horde so we can make this fight a little bit easier. And this is kind of the synergy that I'm talking about. We've got a Warp Fire Thrower that will push back a lot of our teammates while the horde charges in from the flank, and the Storm Vermin kind of in the middle in the mix of all these slave and clan rat ambient trash. It can make for some really difficult fights because those shields are going to block your attacks, stop you from being able to carve through the horde. And one thing I have noticed is we've got a that's actually the Chester the Molester. So yeah, we'll talk about that real quick. There are a bunch of new specials in Vermintide 2, obviously. One of them we affectionately like to call the Chester or Lester the Molester. He's a Chaos Sorcerer who will grab you, kind of like a Packmaster, but from long range. He has this nice little animation where he'll grab you and pull you in, and he'll suck you dry until you've got no health left. So, you gotta watch out for them when they come with hordes, and they usually do. They are a serious issue, a serious problem. We've got a bunch of teammates aggroing a bunch of stuff that we don't need to be killing right now, so they should probably come back this way. But yeah, the shield variants are a problem for you, right? Because they kind of get in the middle of the horde, and they'll make it really hard to cut through them. And they'll bash you and kind of push you around and try to crowd control you. And so yeah, the synergy from all these new enemies, a bunch of new additions, makes for some really fun, interesting, and dynamic gameplay. And so, using the True Flight Bow to kind of weaken them a bit, take them out early is real nice. And we got a Chaos Spawn coming now. And Chaos Spawn is one of the new bosses in Vermintide 2. Now, this is not a good example of what bosses can do, because number one, we're playing on hard, and I feel like at least a couple of the players in here, myself included, could pretty easily be playing on Nightmare. I wanted to get through a couple of hard runs first, though, just to get some gameplay up and get you guys acclimated with the game. And when you're playing with randoms, you just don't know what you're going to get, so it's a little bit safer to play on hard than Nightmare or certainly Kata. I don't even know if Kata is available in this beta right now, but he burned through that Chaos Spawn incredibly quickly with the Hunter ult, I believe, for Marcus Kruber, and some good crits and weapon damage, and so that was pretty nasty, as was slicing that Skaven in half with the spear. Incredibly satisfying weapon, incredibly good, absolutely love it, and like I said, you're going to be seeing it a lot. But I don't think bosses are going to melt that quickly on higher difficulties. At least I hope not. I mean, certainly if you've got really amazing weapons, and believe me guys, you're going to be able to get some nasty synergy going with crits and with your skill trees and stacking buffs and stuff like that. There's going to be some crazy builds that are way too good, and Fat Shark will definitely have to work on balancing that as we go forward, because for sure there are going to be people that find just the dirtiest builds ever that can just melt through bosses like that. I mean, you're already seeing it for sure. When there's like, Fat Shark is new to this in terms of the skill tree building and all these new features that are being added to the game. So it's not going to be too easy to balance, I don't think, but it does make for some really dynamic and interesting gameplay, and it's going to add for a lot of replayability too, which is one of the things I'm most excited about. We've got a Rattlin Gunner. I do want to mention here, Rattlin Gunners have been buffed tremendously in Vermintide 2 compared to 1. In the first game, you might remember, they kind of sit around and wait and just kind of slowly churn up their weapon, and they'll burst for a little bit and then just shoot into a wall, and by that time, you're already behind everything. It's no longer a big deal. Now, they start shooting about as soon as they get on the map. They're going to get a line of sight and immediately just let it rip, and you can't sit around in line of sight of it or it's going to murder you. Warp Fire Thrower, same thing. If it gets close to you, it's going to turn, it's going to burn, and you're going to be a sad boy. You're going to get pushed away, take a lot of damage. So those have gotten buffed tremendously. When you're talking about Poison with Bombardiers, maybe a teeny bit worse compared to what it was in Game 1, at least with these really open maps. Seems like you have more room to maneuver, and you don't get caught in the cloud as much. But a lot of the specials definitely seem like they're, at least the weak ones, way more impactful, and the boss fights are incredibly fun and satisfying as well. We'll be getting another one with a Rat Ogre up here pretty soon, I believe. But let's talk some more about the kit that I'm rocking with right now. So, players have 3 extra slots in Vermintide 2. You've got your melee weapon, you've got your secondary weapon, and if you're the dwarf, you've got 2 melee weapons. So most heroes have a ranged weapon and a melee weapon. Slayers have 2 melee weapons. But then you've got 3 more extra slots. So a necklace slot, a charm slot, and a trinket slot that further help differentiate and customize your character, allow you to build your character the way you want to build them. So my necklace in this game gives me, my weapon rather, 2 additional stamina points, which is pretty massive. 5 stamina overall on this spear is really good for blocking against hordes or reviving allies with enemies nearby. I'll quickly pause that here. This is how you get the first Grim. You go pick up that barrel, plop it in, it'll blow up, you walk up the ladder, and then you'll be able to pick up that Grim and hopefully drop some better loot at the end of the game here. So we'll head up there, yeah. So, yeah, 5 stamina overall, super good, allows you to block hordes, allows you to revive allies with enemies nearby, because you've got enough stamina to withstand the horde before having your block broken. And so that's really nice. I love that +2 stamina. It's super good. And then I have another charm that grants 6.5% additional power versus chaos and 14% extra power versus monsters. And my trinket gives an additional 8% crit chance. So when you combine all that with some of her other crit talents later down her skill tree, and I'll show some of that stuff off later on, she is an absolute monster in melee when you stack those crits up. And if you're feeling a teeny bit lost when I'm talking about some of these talent tree stuff, don't worry about it. I want to focus on the gameplay here for the first few videos, and a little bit of this commentary. It'll be beneficial if you played the beta before. If not, no big deal. I mean, most of this, I'm trying to explain it all, but it's a lot better for you guys to see it than it is for me to just talk about it. So, believe me, we'll make a video about the skill trees for each of the characters, go in depth with all that, and all the new additions, and show them off in another video. For now, just kind of going through the gameplay, showing off the map and the beautiful melee combat that I think you guys are all here to see. So, none of that's terribly complex. You'll be seeing it for yourself pretty soon.
Help me! Are you blind?
So we've got a horde coming. Gonna take a nice defensive position up top where the Hagbane can do its work, spread those nasty, noxious poison clouds, and slaughter a bunch of the plague zombies. And unfortunate Empire civilian peasant guy hanging off the rooftop there. And bunch of Nurgle zombies incoming. So yeah, this is where the Hagbane can really shine. Seems really good at clearing through hordes in this game. Now there are two different kinds of hordes in terms of how they actually move. There's one that's kind of a trickle horde. It's called a trickle horde. Well, they'll come in kind of one at a time in single file. And those are typically easier to deal with because you're killing enemies one at a time and they're not surrounding you or swarming you that bad. This kind of horde looks more like a trickle horde. They're kind of coming at us one at a time, where we can just keep slaying them. Now, I got hit there, but it happens sometimes. The other kind is more of the swarm horde, where they come in this big mass, and as soon as they get to you, they kind of spread out and surround you. And those are much more dangerous. We've got a Chester over here, just slaughtered him, and I think the big swarms are much more terrifying, because especially when you start putting some of those specials in the middle of the horde, you get grabbed, you lose control of your character, and then things get really, really scary. And I've talked about it a little bit, mentioned it a little bit. Difficulty spikes in this game are so much higher, it seems like, than even Vermintide 1, because you've got very big hordes. I mean, for one, hordes now can come in multiple waves. So you don't, when there's a horde, it's not just one horde that comes. There's one that comes from the front, one that comes from the back. There'll be two sides to it. And right now we've got a Rat Ogre, so second boss fight of this map too. We've had like 15, 20 specials, now 2 boss fights. So Hagbane, still really nice for burning through the Rat Ogre with that DOT again. If you stack up that Hagbane and you hit it multiple times in a row, those Hagbane DOTs will stack up over time and continuously do the damage. These boss fights not looking too hard right now. We do have a Blight Stormer, which is the other Chaos Sorcerer. So the first one is called Chester, or Lester. This one is called the Blight Stormer, and he essentially creates this Nurgly tornado of green cyclonic energy that will throw you around, and you can't be attacked while you're in that tornado, but it will do damage to you, and more importantly, it separates your team. It's pretty terrifying. It gets summoned very quickly. When you see that green circle on the ground, you better run like hell, or you're gonna get sucked up into the air. And as we kill another Lester here, you can get thrown away from your teammates, and then again all that synergy kicks in and you get separated and your team just wipes. So the difficulty spikes in this game, it's not uncommon to have 3 or 4 specials on screen at once with a horde or 2 and a boss all at the same time. And even on the lower difficulties, even on normal and hard, yeah, you can definitely wipe on that if you aren't too careful. And that's one of the things that really just adds so much replayability to the game. Every single run is different. Every single time you're facing off against different enemies and different combinations, and it just makes for really, really entertaining and replayable gameplay. But we've been talking a little bit about talents here, as we've got a Skaven and zombie horde incoming, and every 5 levels, you get a new selection of talents to choose from. So for this run, I only had access to my level 5 talents because I believe I'm level 9 here. Level 10, you get your second set of talents, and the talents are different for each class for a character. So the Shade, the Handmaiden, and the Waystalker all have a different skill tree completely. So for the Waystalker, her level 5 talents are the Fury of Anathrema. We know that very well from Total War Warhammer 1, or Warhammer 2. And the Fury of Anathrema grants 5% bonus to attack speed. The second level 5 talent is Morai Heg's Scorn, increasing critical hit chance by 10%. And the third level 5 talent is Hukon's Tenacity, increasing stamina regen by 30%. So I opted for the crit chance. And crits are kind of an old friend, but also a new mechanic as well. Looks like we lost Kruber there, which is pretty unfortunate. We'll be able to get the tome and continue on down the mission. Hopefully be able to pick him up soon. But yeah, I opted for the crit chance because crits are really good. And crits are actually kind of like Killing Blow from Vermintide 1. If you remember, in Vermintide 1, any weapon with Killing Blow had the opportunity to one-shot a man-sized target, a 10 or 15 or 10% chance to one-shot any target you hit. And the crits kind of work like that, although they can now trigger on any target, not just man-sized. So they can trigger on bosses, they can trigger on storm vermin, they can trigger on big targets, and they don't necessarily one-hit kill when they trigger. They just deal additional damage. So pretty much what you'd expect from a critical strike. You'll hear a whooshing sound effect and see an orange or white slice cut to the air at the edge of your weapon when you crit, and it does have a very audible, different sound than your normal attacks. But when a crit happens, you're going to do more damage, and when you stack those up in a pretty crazy manner, you'll get something like what you saw earlier with that Chaos Spawn melting in about 5 seconds. You got an ultimate that can increase your crit chance, and you've got crit on your weapon and all that. Yeah, it can get pretty crazy, pretty insane. So again, Fat Shark probably going to have to do a little bit more balancing on that to make sure that crit can't get super high level. But another thing we haven't talked about too much, and again, we'll go more in depth with it a bit later, but power level, we're going to actually turn... I think the sound was looped. There are some audio bugs in this game for sure, where like your weapons will sometimes not register the sound appropriately, like when it'll make the attack sound happen a little bit later after you've already attacked, or when there's a horde, it'll just loop the horde sound for the rest of the match. So we'll turn it down for a bit until that gets sorted out, and I think we'll be able to turn it back up a little bit later on. But yeah, so power level is an important component of this game. In fact, one of the driving new mechanics of Vermintide 2. So power level is something that's completely separate from the rarity of your weapon. If you remember in Vermintide 1, there were whites, that was the lowest level, then there were greens, and then there were blues, and then oranges, and then there were reds. Those are all different rarity, different quality levels of weapons, and those still exist in the game. But one of the changes now is that power level is completely independent of what rarity the weapon is. So you can have a white level weapon that's like power level 300, which is, I believe 300 is the max power level that a weapon can have. And the higher your power level, the better you can go into something like Cataclysm. But it doesn't take very long to grind that up and get to a point where you've got high enough power levels to get into Cataclysm or Nightmare or whatever difficulty you want to do. One thing I have noticed is that the grind in this game does seem like they've taken some good steps to make sure that it's not as grindy. You can get your weapons unlocked a lot quicker and that kind of thing, which is really important. I mean, loot is a driving factor in this game for sure. People are going to want to return and play with the cool weapons that they unlock, and if you're not getting that loot all the time and you're not getting it for the characters you want, then that's a problem. And I think Fat Shark is taking some good steps to make sure that you do get those weapons that you want. But now when you've got, say, a blue power level 300, okay, you're going to have 2 traits on that weapon. An orange would have 3 traits, blue has 2 traits, a green has 1 trait, which is why my Azrai Spear has a 6% additional crit chance. If it was a blue or an orange, it would have 1 or 2 traits on top of what it already has. But now you can have a white rarity weapon that is still high power level that will allow you to go into Cataclysm and do enough damage to the enemies that you're not feeling like you're hitting like a pillow with marshmallows inside. That's important too. So you drop these weapons pretty frequently as long as you're beating the missions, and the power level essentially is tied to all of your gear combined. So it takes the trinket level you have, it takes the weapons you have, it takes the necklace and the charm you have equipped, and with some little teeny bit of algorithm going on, adds all those up together, and the higher the power level, the more damage overall you're going to be doing. Which sounds really bad on paper, but again, it's still entirely possible to go through a mission like this on a high difficulty with lower level weapons. And in fact, you're going to be seeing that probably a lot from some of the better players in the community. Stuff like White Runs, where you use the lowest level quality weapons and try to make it through Cataclysm or something like that. It's still entirely possible, and probably add a nice little challenge to the game. So, we're getting pretty close to the end of the run here. It's been not an incredibly brutal run. There have been some absolutely insane runs I've had on this game. I've had the closed beta for almost close to 3 weeks now, or maybe 2.5, yeah, 2.5, 3 weeks now. And kind of been playing it off and on because there are moments where you're not able to play when they take it down and have to make some changes or whatever. But this has been one of the easier runs. We haven't had too much trouble here, and I don't actually know these players. One thing, obviously, when you're rolling with a squad, when you know the people you're playing with and they're high skill level players, it makes it a lot easier. Sometimes you run into a bunch of pubbers like this game where it's not too bad. Like, people seem to know what they're doing. You're working relatively well, even if there's not a whole lot of communication going on. We're not on voice chat, we're not on comms right now, but still going pretty smooth, and haven't had too many of those crazy boss fights where you've got 17 specials and a bunch of hordes descending on your head. Chaos Warrior coming in, trying to fight, but we're critting the crap out of him, and he goes down. I cannot wait to see Chaos Warriors on Cataclysm difficulty. They're going to be tough to bring down. I want to say, at that level, they have 80 HP. That might be Nightmare. I'm not sure if it's Nightmare or Cataclysm, but when it's 80 HP, it's really hard to bring a dude down. That's like, yeah, it's a lot. With armor, with the shields that he's got rocking, yeah, they're going to be super tanky. And yeah, I mean, again, one of the redeeming factors about Vermintide 2 is just the massive amount of enemy variety and how they work together. And I really can't stress that enough. It's so much fun, dude. This game is a blast. Now, of course, I will be doing a full impressions video talking about the good and the bad, what I like, what's been added, what I don't like. I'm not quite there yet. I want to get some more game time on this, what I'd consider is now an open beta. And then once I've gotten a little bit more time under my belt, we'll jump in and do that full review or overview. But yeah, I mean, if you guys are liking the gameplay, if you're liking me doing this content, I'm gonna keep uploading it because I love Vermintide. I mean, I'm sure you guys know it. I did a ton of games, or a ton of videos for the first game, and I wasn't even on the hype train for that one, right? Like, I started playing, I think, 4 or 5 months after the game first came out. But this one, we're here on launch day, baby, which is an important thing for sure. Throwing a Inferno into the middle of the Horde, trying to carve a path, and we are super, super close to the end here, getting crazy close, and feel like I've made a pretty big impact on this run for sure. Carrying the Grim, haven't taken a whole lot of damage. Azrai Spear is painted in the blood of my enemies, and it's a gorgeous map too. One thing I've seen in all my playthroughs so far, the map variety is very nice. There's some like this one, and I've only played 3 maps, but even so, across all 3 of those, and maybe that's why they got chosen, there's just really nice visual variety. In this one, we've got farmland and kind of a nice evening, late afternoon ambiance to it, in the cornfields and the wheat fields. Of course, overrun by Nurgle and Skaven. But then we've got Seed of Corruption, which is, well, I'll of course be showing off. We've got a Helmgart completely overrun, beautiful vistas of an entire city in ruins, and white marble everywhere, and lots of really cool architecture, and a beautiful church at the end of the game. And then you have the Tempest, which is the forest mission, where you're just in the middle of this very dreary, crazy forest, kind of like Athel Loren, where you're exploring these high elven ruins. And it just warms my heart, dude, to know that first off, we haven't even seen all that this game will be offering. There's so much more to discuss and talk about, but just in terms of maps and enemy types, like especially maps, like there's so many places in this gigantic universe that we can go and explore. And we've only scratched the surface with Vermintide 1 and Vermintide 2, and there's just so much opportunity to expand it even more. But we're gonna make a crazy mad dash here to the end. Got my Azrai Spear out, Gunner Runner popping on top of Saltspire, gonna stab him in the face, and make our way through this event. I think it might be endless hordes. Bunch of marauders, gotta keep dodging, gotta keep moving, gotta keep using that really great mobility on the Azrai Spear to dodge dance, get out to the flank. Got a Rattlin Gun firing in the back, gonna pop that True Flight. Doesn't look like I was able to lock onto him. And I'm holding off a bunch of marauders right now as my team pushes through. Dwarf goes down, could definitely use his ultimate ability right here, which would draw aggro from everyone. Ironbreaker can actually make every single enemy in a horde attack him and give him unlimited stamina on his block for a limited duration, which is insanely good if you're in a sticky situation like this one. But almost there. I'm still at relatively good health, carving through him. We're gonna make it and get all the way to the end, get inside the Waystone bubble, and get teleported back on home. So that will be the end of the mission. We will be successful. So, hope you guys enjoyed this look at Kerillian the Waystalker and Vermintide 2 gameplay. So much more coming. Let me know what you guys want to see. Like, obviously we're going to be doing regular gameplays. We'll be doing tutorials. Is there anything specific? Or is there a certain weapon you want me to cover in a video? Certain enemy type? Boss tutorials, that kind of thing. Anything specific you want me to cover? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll be happy to oblige. I think this will be the focus of the channel for at least the next week or two at the very least. Obviously going to be working in Total War content as well, but for the next couple days at the very least, definitely focusing on Vermintide, and hopefully you guys stick around and keep watching, because that will definitely motivate me to continue making videos for it. Hope you guys are enjoying it so far. Make sure you try out the beta if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Andy Pride, signing out for now.